Okay guys, in this section I'll be showing you how to import the engine projects that we'll be using all into Eclipse, and we'll be discussing the life cycle of engine. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is go to File, and if you haven't downloaded already, make sure you download the folder that I uploaded to this section, and that folder will be titled 2D Slides, 2D Side Scroller. So you click on that, you should see a projects file folder here, and you'll see 3 folders, and these are the projects that we need for our engine game. So the first thing you want to do is just make sure you know where those files are, and we want to go to File, Import, and we want to go ahead and import go to Android and existing Android code into Workspace. And if you don't have Android here, that means that you don't have the Android Eclipse plugin installed. So what you need to do is you need to follow the link provided in the description and install that plugin. Okay, so once you are in the import section, you want to go to the existing Android code into Workspace, hit next, and browse. And once you hit browse, you should see all your directories, and you want to navigate to wherever you saved those projects. And I happen to save mine in 2D Side Scroller. So if you go in there, you'll see the project files folder. Click on that folder and just hit OK. And as you see, all of 3 of the projects show up that we need, and we can go ahead and hit finish and import them. Alright, and wait for this to finish loading. It's loading some data from the Android library itself. Just wait for that. Alright, and wait for it. Sometimes it takes a while to it has to index all the files and the libraries themselves. It has to just pretty much build everything. Okay, cool, there we are. So we successfully imported our engine, the engine itself, the engine project. We imported physics, which we'll be using, and we imported the TMX Tout map extension. And this is basically a extension that we'll be using with Tout, which is a level editor, map editor that we'll be using. So next thing we need to do is we need to go ahead and create our first project for our game, and we need to just do File, New, and go to Android application project. Click that, and let's go ahead and name our game. And we're going to name this Run Alien Run. So it kind of can give you a little information or a hint to what our game's going to be about. So it's basically going to be like a runner game, and the alien's going to be running, and we're going to be able to create cool levels and add all type of objects, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, so the project name, you can leave this as it is. You can leave that the same. Package name, let's change this to com.udemy run alien run, and we can just leave it as that. If you want to name it something else, feel free to do so, but if you just want to follow along with the tutorial exactly how I do it, then just follow me. So the minimum API required by the engine project is API 8 or 2.2 is the lowest it goes, which is GLS 2. Anything lower than that, it doesn't support. You would need to go back to GLS 1 to support those. Target SDK, let's change this to API 18, which is the latest, and compile with, you can leave this the same. Theme, change it to none since we won't be using a theme, and hit next. Leave everything else as checked, and next, and next. And so here for the main activity, let's name ours main game activity. And this is basically going to be the main game or the main game activity of our entire game. So name that main game activity and hit finish, and you should see your project loading. Alright, and I'm just going to exit out of this if this pops up. this activity main game. If it pops up, just kind of you can just exit out of it because we won't be using that at all. Okay, so now let's go ahead and start working. So go to your Run Alien Run project, go to source src, and then you should see a package called com.udemy.runalienrun. Click the arrow and double click main game so we can open it up and begin editing. So as you see here, it's already extended the base activity of an engine, vanilla Android, but we're not going to be using this. So we can go ahead and just erase it, and we need to change this to main game activity extends simple base game activity. Actually that should be base game activity, and we need to go to our project. Right now it's telling us, hey, I don't really know what base game activity is, so we need to go right click on our Run Alien project and go to properties, and you want to go to Android tab here, and we need to add our libraries. So we need to go to add, and you should see and engine and the rest of the engines pop up, and just go ahead and click and engine, and then click the physics and then the TMX tile map and hit apply and OK. Alright, so now if we hover over the base game activity, we have an import available. So let's go ahead and import that, and now we have an error, the main game activity. So just hover your cursor over main game activity, and you will see a option to add unimplemented methods, and that's exactly what we want to do. So go ahead and do add unimplemented methods, and you should see a bunch of methods pop up that we will be discussing. Okay, so you guys are probably looking at this like, what the hell is all this stuff, right? Well, in this section, the main point is I'm going to break down to you what all this means and the importance of it, of understanding each part. So the base game activity is actually an activity that extends the activity in Android, and engine itself has its own functions and different methods that it has, but we don't need to worry about that. So let's discuss the first function here, the public engine options on create engine options method. So what this method does is, this method is responsible for creating the engine options, and the engine options are basically a way of telling the engine what settings we need for our game. For example, if we need sounds, if we need vibrations, if we need wake lock, or any other type of permission or setting, the engine options is where we would tell our engine what we need, and then it would request it from the phone itself. Public void on create resources is a method where it's specifically created to create our resources or load our resources into the game before the scene is being shown. So this would be the method where we would load textures, files, fonts, sounds, or any resources that we will be using in our game. We will typically load them here. And next we have the on create scene, and this method here is basically responsible for creating the scene game, or here in this method we can create a scene, and that scene will be the main menu scene, or can be any scene we want. But this method is called once the on create resources method finish, and then here typically we're supposed to create our scene, but I'll be showing you guys a better way to manage projects in the future sections. So yeah, that's the point of this whole on create method. It's really kind of pointless. We really don't even need it, but it's there to kind of provide a structure, if you will, to this whole class. Last but not least, we have the public void on populate scene method, and this method is responsible for populating the scene. So typically this is where we're supposed to populate our scene with buttons, backgrounds, text, whatever else we need, sprites, entities, you name it. This is where all this is typically supposed to be done. But as I said earlier, I'll be showing you guys a better, more efficient way to manage a project and a more organized, structured way to do it versus loading all these methods with millions and millions and millions of lines of code. It gets kind of difficult to read, so I'll be showing you a better way to do it. So that's it for this section. This is really important. You really need to understand how this works and what each method does and is responsible for, especially the engine options. So yes, this is it for this section. Next section we'll be discussing, we'll basically start coding. Actually, we'll start creating our engine and discussing that. So I'll see you guys in the next section.